Hey guys, it's Kugli again with another video, and this time I'm going to be comparing the Google camera modified with HDR Plus enabled for 821 and 820 Snapdragon devices with the stock camera, so stay tuned for that. So guys, now if you haven't been living under a rock, you already know that GCam modified with the HDR Plus mode is now available for all Snapdragon 821 and 820 devices, and well, it's our lucky day. The OnePlus 3 is an 820 device. You can see that it does have support for HDR Plus, so you can enable that, and that does work out really well. Also, you have the OxygenOS camera, which is the stock camera which the OnePlus 3 device comes with. So I'm going to be comparing between these devices. Hopefully I will reach a conclusion and you can hear all about it in this one. I'll hand it over to the other Kugli, who is going to have a screen capture for you guys comparing different photographs he has already taken. So over to you then. Right here I have the folder where I have taken the GCam photos, which will be the HDR Plus photos. Here we have the OxygenOS photographs. And here is a combined photograph which I have superimposed over each other. So I will be showing you guys how that actually shows up in normal usage. So let's start with the first picture, and this one is a picture of my motorcycle, so you can probably see this is pretty good. And here is the OxygenOS camera footage, and right off the bat you can see that all the bike is black, and all the black details and all that, especially inside of the radiator guard here, you can see that it is much less noisy than it otherwise is. I mean, I think this one, the GCam file, is much better in just capturing all the details without a lot of noise, and I really do like that. Apart from that, if you see this cloud level here, that's another thing which I noticed. You can see in bright conditions, cloud detail here, this one is much more detailed and much more pronounced here than in this photo where it just gets washed out or overexposed. And that is the main strength of HDR photographs. Here is the combined photograph which I actually just superimposed over each other. So you can see there is quite a drastic difference in the quality of it. So you can see there is a color difference, and this one is much more noisier, and this is a very well lit condition. Even in the shadows you can see that there is a lot of noise here going on, and there's a lot more detail in the GCam photograph. So yeah, this is what I want to show you guys. I think GCam photo is the clear winner in this one. Now comes the next file, and this is another photograph of the same motorcycle from a different angle, and you can see underneath the belly pan, so you can see underneath the seat, much more detailed and much better exposed photograph here. Again, exposure is the key when it comes to high dynamic range. You can see all the cloud coverage. Cloud is much more detailed in this one, the GCam photograph, and I just like this one. Again, if you want to check these photos out yourself, you can do that. The links are in the description below, and you can just go to town with it. So that's another thing. One more thing which I wanted to show you guys in this photo is that the flora here is in the OxygenOS cam or the stock cam. It is really jumbled up. There isn't much details. You cannot really make out the foreground from the background, but here it is much more clearer, and you do get that much more details in the shadows and all that. And here is the superimposed photograph which I have done. So you can see there is a clear difference between both of these photographs. And even looking at the sky, you can see that there's a clear difference there. Now let's see a landscape photograph which I took here, and you can see also again the sky is much more detailed. The cloud coverage, the cloud details are much better in this one. It just looks much better in my opinion. I just like this. Also, if you come to this area where there is a lot of flora going on, this one does have more detail in the GCam photograph rather than this one. This is just a mess in my opinion, just really can't distinguish between the foreground, background and the middle ground. So much more details in the HDR photo, and this is its element. HDR photos do make sense when you have a lot of light going on. There's a really bright spot and there is a less bright spot, so you can really make the difference. So yeah, again, this is a superimposed photo. You can see the difference, night and day difference. So left is the GCam photograph, right one is the Oxygen OS cam. Now here is a photo which I took of the sky directly looking at the sun at the time. So yeah, clear difference here. You can see this one was the sun and you can see the clear disk of the sun here. Nothing special going on here, it's just a bloated light source. That's where HDR does make a difference. So yes, the post-processing of these photographs, well, it does make a difference. You can see this is the water tank. You can pretty much see the scaffolding here, so you can make out the different structures here. Not so much inside, so in this one, which is Oxygen OS cam. So yes, that does make a lot of difference here. So yeah, here is the superimposed photograph. I guess that should make stuff very clear. Now here is a photograph which I just wanted to give you guys a little bit more idea of how much detail HDR can make out. So you can see my hands, every single crevice and lines are seen in here. Whereas in this one, taken with the normal Oxygen OS camera, it is lacking quite a bit in the details of my hands. So yeah, there is a difference going on here. Now here is another photograph which I think HDR does excel quite a lot. So in this one you can see, okay, there's a coconut tree here and there's another coconut tree here. Much more details in the coconut, in the leaves of the coconut. All the stuff is much more detailed in here. I like it, and it's just much better and much more sharp. That's what I would say this is. In the scaffolding of the house, this one is a GCam photograph and you can kind of see the structures underneath the roofing, but here is just a wash. You cannot make it out. Also the star, you can see that there are the holes can be really made out, and this one just looks like it has been blown off. I'm not really sure what happened here. Now here is an indoor photograph taken with the lights, one light on in my room. So this is my set. If you have seen any of my videos, you understand this. This one is a GCam photograph, and one thing which I want to notify in this one is that overall looking, I think this the Oxygen OS camera photograph looks better with kind of what I consider as a pleasing effect. But there is a shadow here, right? That is me standing here. So if you look into the shadows, you can see the texts in the Samsung Galaxy S3 box, and it is much more clear than in the Oxygen OS camera. So it does capture a lot more detail than this one. So that's just one thing here. Again, if you look into the blacks here in the Oxygen OS camera, the noises are quite lower when compared to the GCam. So that is an inversion when we see with the brightly lit environments. In the brightly lit environments, it had a lot more differences. The noise levels were higher, but in this one it just is inverted. So I think that should be it. Now here is another photograph in window light condition. Okay, the windows were open, and that is pretty much it. There were no other source of light except for this display. So this is the Oxygen OS camera, and I have to say the Oxygen OS camera has much less noise when compared to in this photograph. So you can see there is a lot of noise here, but again, details are much better captured in this camera than the other one. So yeah, you can see the fabric details, again, much more better captured in GCam. Now here is another photograph which I thought was very interesting. This one was also taken with the same both cameras, and the GCam decided it did not need flash, but Oxygen Cam decided it really did needed flash. So I got two different photographs in the same scenario, same exact scenario. Here's the difference in both of the photographs. I mean, this is a darker photo, it's going to have a little bit of noise, but that's expected. This one, which I would consider as a normal lighting condition. The first photographs which I have taken and where I showcased HDR, that is where almost, I mean, that is with an overwhelming amount of light. there is a lot of light going on. It might not be the most realistic scenario. Again, there is much more detail in the GCam photographs. I just like the detailing on that. One thing which I did notice is that, okay, let's look at this bright spot here. There is kind of something going on here, right? There is a purplish tone to the lights going on from the bright spots and the low spots. I'm not entirely sure what is causing it, but I've seen this in a lot of HDR corrected photographs. Now, this is a superimposed photograph of what you saw right now, and yes, you can pretty much see the line here, but in first glance, I don't think you will make any difference. I mean, it looks pretty similar to what a photograph which you will normally take with this one. Not entirely sure if it really does make any difference here. So these photographs, there is a slight differences with the darker areas being much more black and, well, HDR making it a good work. Also, just look at this light spot here, the details inside the light spot, so you can distinguish every single leaf here. One thing which I want to show you guys is this one. Okay, look at this picture. I personally at first glance cannot make sure or cannot determine where the transition period is from one shot to the other. But if I look really closely, I can see there is a line here. So this is where this one is the Oxygen OS cam picture and this is the GCam picture. But looking just like this really doesn't really matter for me. I mean, it really just shows as one cohesive picture. There is a little difference in the colors, but apart from that, I really can't say. Now, this is another photograph which makes it very difficult to see where the transition is. But yes, here is the transition. You can probably see here. This is where the transition is happening. Here is another photo which makes use of that high definition stuff. So you can see the sky here is much more detailed. You can pretty much see the outline of all the sky, all the clouds out there, but in this one it's just a bright spot. So yes, you can see pretty much there is a difference going on. These are photographs which I took in artificial lighting only. I had 2 lights on, and I mean, I really cannot find too much differences. Only thing is that the black on this GCam is much blacker than the one on the Oxygen OS cam, so that's one thing. Apart from that, I think I still think this one is, the GCam is much more noisier than the Oxygen OS cam. So yeah, here is the different superimposed photograph. So you can see, yeah, the fabric, well, it does make a little bit of difference here and there. Not really sure which one is better, but yeah, there is a difference there. Okay, now here is the photograph which I took with one source of light at night, and you can pretty much see there is a difference here. This one is a bit bluish in my opinion. It's a colder image, and this one is a much warmer image. This one was with the flash. The flash did fire with both of these photographs. There's much more detail in HDR when you take photographs. And here is the superimposed one, so you can see there is a lot of difference. I just wanted to just show you guys the differences between these two photographs. So yeah, there is a bit of differences when it comes to both of these. So guys, you have already seen all the results, well, all the photographs. Do let me know which one is what you guys like the best. It will depend on person to person. Personally, I like the GCam photographs. It's noticeably better in many conditions, and I do like that. But the problem is that many times the GCam photograph does look a little too post-processed or too processed in the meantime. So if you want a little bit, I think the Oxygen OS camera takes a little bit more natural photographs rather than this more clearer photographs. But of course, it's going to look a little bit more process because of the HDR processing going on. So yeah, and also there are other things to consider when choosing between these applications. Like Oxygen OS camera on the OnePlus 3, it does have RAW support, which GCam currently does not, and also 60 FPS video recording. That's another thing, which GCam video itself is not something which you can select. So yeah, right now it's running at 30 FPS, and that's just how it is. It just isn't that simple to choose between them. So hopefully you guys liked the video. Please share, subscribe, and like the video if you found it useful. See you guys next time. Bye.